Well, let me just say this. First of all, happy Hanukkah, and I want to thank the
Amen.
president. I want to thank the president for getting this vaccine as fast as he did. There's inertia in the bureaucracy, inertia with corporations. He knew they needed money. He knew they needed direction, as a private sector former developer could. And he's going to wind up saving millions and millions of people. Not Fauci, not Birx, not the bureaucracy. It's Trump. That's number one. Number two, we've had our fourth peace agreement now in the Middle East today with Morocco and Israel. That's more peace agreements under this president than all prior presidents put together. And he deserves enormous credit for that. God forbid if Biden's president, he'll reverse all that. And I want to talk about Biden. It turns out Biden was really the Manchurian candidate, wasn't he? Biden is bought and paid for by the communist Chinese. His son is bought and paid for by the communist Chinese. His son is a crook. His brother's a crook. This entire family, you got your son under criminal investigation for potential tax fraud and securities fraud. You got your brother under criminal investigation in the Western District of Pennsylvania for possible violations of law with respect to his involvement in a healthcare hospital and that sort of thing. I don't know many family members who have this kind of situation going on, but it's even worse than that. Let us not forget the story that did come out before the election that the media covered up, that big tech covered up. I have firsthand knowledge Joe Biden was involved in China deals. That's Tony Bobulinski. We have a number of people to thank. We have Peter Schweitzer, the New York Post, but Rudy Giuliani, who they've spent years now trying to smear. He had the guts to take this information. It was given to him off the hard drive of that computer. They made it public. We wouldn't even know about Tony Bobulinski if it wasn't for Rudy and what he did. And what did he say? What did he say on the record? He said on the record that Joe Biden was aware of this deal and deals, that Joe Biden was going to get a big chunk of the millions of dollars in it, that Joe Biden was aware of his son's dealing in China. That is blockbuster. That is blockbuster. The New York Times, which covered up the Holocaust, covered this up. The Washington Post, which covered up the Holocaust, covered this up. CNN, we know thanks to James O'Keefe from Project Veritas, that Jeff Zucker from the top said, don't pursue this story. Every newsroom in America, bar a few, covered up this story, and it is a huge story. Now we have early voting, we have mail-in voting, and God forbid if this man becomes president of the United States, this family is crooked. No wonder China wanted this family in office. Let me tell you something else that's taking place here. The fact of the matter is, the people that Biden would bring into office, from his Secretary of State to his Director of National Intelligence to his Education Secretary, they're all appeasers of China. All appeasers of China. And that would include Antony Blinken, who he would want to nominate as Secretary of State. Avril Haines, who he wants to nominate as Director of National Intel. John Kerry, the biggest of the appeasers. And by the way, not only appease China, but the regime in Iran, the regime in Cuba. They talk about the president liking dictators. These guys love dictators. They do business with dictators. The woman he wants to bring in as Education Secretary, she wrote a book called Empowered Educators, How High-Performing Systems Shape Teaching Quality Around the World. She's praising the Chinese educational system. And what can you expect from our media? You have a guy like Thomas Friedman, on more than one occasion, has praised the autocracy in China, praises communist China. There is no way Biden didn't know about his son's dealings, his brother's dealings. No way. And he still hasn't been questioned by the phony media in this country. I want to remind the American people that in January, when Donald Trump cut off travel from China, do you think Joe Biden, with all the connections to China, all the crookedness with China, would have cut off anything with China? Hell, he and the others were saying, don't call it the China virus. Don't call it the China virus. Why? It is the China virus. Joe Biden lied to us every step of this campaign. When the President of the United States brought this stuff up during the debates, he was shut down by the moderators. They wouldn't pursue it with Joe Biden. Joe Biden lied about his son. He lied about what he knew about China. It's a disgrace. And I'm going to tell you something else about China. Hollywood, the NBA, Wall Street, colleges and universities, these corporations, all of which threw in with Biden, all of which opposed Trump, all to one extent or another on China's payroll. But I want to talk about something else very quickly here. Does anybody remember what happened in the 1990s with the Clinton campaign and the DNC and Democrat candidates and the Communist Chinese military? We have dark money in the Biden campaign, around $320 million in dark money. Everybody said, where are they getting all this money from? It's absolutely massive. It's enormous. Now, if we had real media in this country, real journalists in this country, they'd want to know too. 1/3 of $1 billion comes into the Biden campaign through the back door, massive amounts of money, and we don't know where it's coming from? Well, somebody needs to look. Now, I'm not saying it's communist China, but I wouldn't put it past them because Clinton and the Democrats have taken money from communist China before. The communists love the Democrats, especially the Bidens. This, I want people to remind you, it is from Unfreedom of the Press, my book. You don't have to buy it. I'm telling you what's in it. The LA Times, which did take an investigative interest in the story, the chief of China's military intelligence secretly directed funds from Beijing to help re-elect President Clinton in 1996. Anyone remember this? Former Democratic fundraiser Johnny Chung told federal investigators. Chung provided damning testimony before a federal grand jury that the Chinese government wanted Clinton re-elected. Remember Charlie Tree? Some of us do, a longtime friend of Clinton, raised $1.2 million in foreign dollars for the Clinton Legal Defense Fund and the DNC, and he dropped off a little donation of $460,000 in sequentially numbered money. Remember that? I remember that. The LA Times, James Riotti, another longtime friend of Clinton. He had extensive ties to the communist government. His banking group acknowledged in court papers they made millions of dollars in illegal campaign donations to a Democratic presidential and congressional campaign. People remember that? Remember John Wong? He raised more than $1.5 million from illegal foreign sources and visited the White House repeatedly. So my question is this. Where the hell did 1/3 of $1 billion in dark money come from into the Biden campaign? Now, of course, the media, which is in the back pocket of the Democrat Party, I mean, they're even letting Swalwell off the hook. Swalwell is now apparently arguing that his genitalia is a secret matter. He can't talk about his genitalia. He can't talk about the alleged affair that he had with Fang Fang. I know I didn't have an affair with Fang Fang. The United States Supreme Court has done a grave disservice to this country. About 5 weeks ago, there was a case brought by Pennsylvania that the governor there, that the Secretary of State there, and the state Supreme Court, which is rogue, like the Florida court was in 2020, violated Article 2 of the Constitution, which says the legislature makes election law. 4-4, John Roberts, who's gone Hollywood, who's jumped the shark, decided that they weren't going to take up the case. Pennsylvania, they come back. And they say, okay, well, look, the state legislature violated their own constitution. Then the state Supreme Court, on top of it, violated it as well. You're poisoning all these electors that are going to the Electoral College. What do you want to do? 18-word order that tells the American people nothing, they shut it down. The states go, what the hell's going on here? The states that follow the law, the states that didn't weaken the signature requirements, the states that didn't extend the voting periods, the states that care about the rule of law and the sanctity of the vote. They're suing these 4 states and they're saying, okay, Supreme Court, now we want you to address the institutionalized fraud and crookedness that the Democrats put in place in these various states. Now what are you going to do, Supreme Court? You've already undermined your reputation. Now are you going to undermine your integrity as well? We're about to find out.